Welcome to the PTI Nebraska YouTube channel. The following is a pre-recorded training presentation designed to educate and support parents, caregivers, guardians, and youth with disabilities, as well as the professionals who serve them. We're excited to have you here while you come learn with PTI.
Okay, welcome everybody. I am Sharon Elliott, PTI Nebraska. I work with the transition age population, parents, students, teachers, etc. Help navigate all things transition. And it's a lot. It's a big, scary world, and I do my best. I've been here for 2 years. Before that, I was a special education teacher at middle school level and taught for 10 years. And I'm also the parent of a child with complex needs who we will be talking about in a couple slides. So I'm joined today by my amazing colleague, Lisa.
So my name is Lisa Habza. I'm the Family to Family Health Information Specialist at PTI Nebraska. I have been here for about 3 years, and I work closely with Sharon, addressing all things healthcare related and supportive when it comes to transition. I also deal with all ages, so the little bitties to the adults. I am also a parent of a child with a complex health condition as well.
Okay, so PTI Nebraska, just a brief summary in case you're new to us, who we are. We are a parent training information center. There is a parent center in every state. Nebraska has one. Some bigger states have more than one. The goal of PTI is to help empower families to feel confident in navigating the special ed process. And at PTI, we help families from all the way from babies, early interventions, through special education, IEP, 504, into transition services, helping them with all the tools that they need to advocate effectively for their children. We are also partnered with F2F, and that is the family stuff. Wait, what? That is Lisa's role here, and she's able to help with those medical pieces, and that she covers the birth through adulthood. So here are our kiddos. My son Emmett there is on the left. He is a 15-year-old who has a rare genetic disorder, which has caused a lot of other symptoms. He has epilepsy and a cortical visual impairment, autism, has difficulty with communication, and other challenges. He's also a joy to those around him. He brings a lot of smiles, and just a fun kid.
And on the right is my daughter, Noelle. She will be 21 years old in November. Noelle was born with multiple congenital anomalies. So basically, she was born with a neurotube defect. So from just a little size of a bean, she just didn't grow in the typical fashion. So she has a lot of complex medical needs. As you can see in the picture, she does have a trach, so she breathes through that. She has a G button. She also has seizures, as well as cerebral palsy and some physical limitations to her hands and feet. She is also nonverbal, but has developed her own communication style.
Okay, our learning objectives for the day. We're going to take a close-up look at that post-secondary goal of employment and how we can work to develop those employment skills while we're still in school. We're also going to share examples of activities we are doing with our own children who are very different, as well as many more examples for possible work possibilities. We're going to look at current job trends in Nebraska for people that are working with voc rehab after they graduate from high school. So what do students with disabilities need for successful transitions to adulthood? They need lots of practice. They need experience with different types of work tasks. Could start with just household chores and build from that. We need to presume competence and not place artificial barriers on what we believe our students are capable of doing without testing or the data to support. we need to have those clear, clear directions and challenging goals. And if something isn't working, we tweak things, we change things, we try new things. We don't put up artificial barriers and just assume that somebody isn't going to be able to accomplish something, or that somebody isn't going to be able to be employed without, lots and lots of trials and data to support that. So the number one factor predicting post-school career success is actually work experience during high school. This was data by Employment First and the Office of Disability Employment Policy. So if work experience is so important in high school, that's why we are going to be talking about it today. I love this presumed employability. We've talked about presumed competence all the time, and now I'm going to be adding presumed employability to my language as well, because under the right conditions of opportunity and support, all youth can work in integrated jobs, not just some youth or many youth, but all youth. Again, this is by the same people, the Office for Disability Employment Policy and Employment First. So how do we achieve success?
That's where we plan for it, Sharon, and we focus on what's important. When most people first walk up and meet my daughter Noelle, they think unemployment or employment is not possible. So really, when we're planning for it and focusing on what's most important, we need to start thinking about a change in the mindset. Not in thinking she's unemployable and oh, poor her. We need to change that work is possible. And it's important to start thinking early and continuing to manipulate this plan until the time it is put into action. If you're having a hard time seeing what this could be like, research, ask questions along the way, utilize person-centered planning tools, and maybe work through some charting the life course tools. Nothing's ever perfect, and it doesn't work out the way you initially thought. When my daughter was real young, I thought, oh, wow, maybe she'll be a greeter at Walmart. Through time, the evolution of the Walmart greeter has changed. And do I any longer think that is a possibility or a good fit for Noelle? No, it's a lot more complex. But that doesn't mean I gave up on the idea of work. I just went on to my next venture, trialing what is to come. This takes creative thinking by teams to think outside of the box. This starts with the post-secondary goals and preparing the students for employment, education, and independent living to live to the best of their abilities. We also got to take into consideration the students' desires. My daughter would never thrive in a sheltered work environment. She thrives with social interactions, being around people. So we needed to take into account those transition assessments, keep clear observation. We talk to family members that can maybe help us explain what our student desires are, what makes them happy, what makes them smile, what makes them cry, what makes them sad. We continue to collect information through interviews, observation, and person-centered planning, as well as trials. Let's try it and see if she likes it. We also focus on lifespan planning. Like I said, very early, I thought of a Walmart greeter. Through programming and exploring waiver services, day programs, Social Security, and supported decision-making tools, her financial needs, and her employment support, that has looked a little different. Never did I assume that Noelle's transition to employment would be so great. I'll explain more of this later. We need to focus on strengths, focusing on the individual and their full potential. When my daughter was born, doctors saw little potential for quality of life or abilities. They focused on what she would not be able to do and how her life would look different than the typical babies. I chose from a very early age to focus on what parts of activities she could learn to do that brought her joy. No, she will never talk, is what they said. But in the back of my mind, how could she learn to communicate? It's been trial and error, and not everybody understands Noelle's communication styles, but those who need to know and take the time to learn, all learn about her likes and dislikes. Between her hoots and hollers, her waves, her screams, her reaching out for an object or throwing it on the floor when it's not the one that she likes. She sometimes, when she wants to, uses a communication device. Those are her strengths.
So when we look at transition planning best practices, we know that in Nebraska, that secondary transition services must be in place beginning of age 14. It can be done sooner, but the IEP that is in the place when the student turns 14 must contain a transition plan. And transition planning is ongoing. It's not a one-time thing that's done at age 14. It's something that needs to be continued. Transition assessment should be going all year around to really hone in on where our kids are heading, working on those post-secondary goals and making sure that they're still the same. It's very common that they are changing every year, but like, Lisa was talking about, if the post-secondary goal does shift, we have to then shift the annual goals and transition services to align again to where that individual now will be heading. At what's part of the transition plan process, just real briefly, we start with those transition assessments. We use those assessments to write the post-secondary goals. And looking at the post-secondary goals, we can determine what transition services are needed that year to help get closer to reaching the post-secondary goals. And then what courses in middle school and high school are going to align to help them reach those post-secondary goals. Then what annual IEP goals, again, what things, activities, what work that one school year is going to get them closer to reaching those post-secondary goals. And then what agencies are going to be needed to help the student maximize life after high school. And finally, that exit from secondary and special education. So I love this quote as well, because a student's current ability is not finite, and adding yet reframes a focus on teaching skills needed to make progress, however small the progress is. Progress is progress and should be celebrated. The brain is adaptable. There's a ton of neuroplasticity research out there to support that.
So, while this might not be directly related to work, but it is a related skill, something that most people told me that Noelle would never do. And I added yet. I've continued to work with Noelle on self-feeding and accessing liquids through a cup. By about the age of 16, most providers had given up on this. Although we continue to work on it daily, one day I was amazed to learn that Noelle was drinking out of a straw independently. And I was like, what? Is she sucking out of the straw? And her friend looked at me in amazement and was like, yeah, she does it all the time. I was like, no, she doesn't. But just continuing to give her that exposure, to give her different flavors of water. Now give her milk in a cup and she's not going to drink it. That's not her favorite. But flavored water is. So at the age of 19, she finally learned to drink out of a straw. Now we keep working through this and investigate cups that she can manipulate herself, straws that she can get in and out of her mouth, just by the differences with her hands and her movements. So you can teach an old dog new tricks.
Yes, you can. And I have examples of, new learning that's happening all the time for my son as well at school with his communication device and with his accessibility using a white cane and navigating. And, these skills are coming. So it's the transition assessments, they should be addressing the 3 goal areas and post-secondary goals. Every student who is in transition age on an IEP from 14 on has a transition goal for post-secondary goal in education and training and employment. Independent living is dependent on the student's needs. Not all students are going to need help in independent living, so it might not be a post-secondary goal on your individual's IEP plan. We've got a collection of amazing transition assessments that are going to hit on all 5 of those areas. This is a borrowed resource from an ESU. It's a great tool. So if you snap a picture of it, you'll find all kinds of categories and different areas, and also broken down into even different skill levels for different individuals you might be assessing. So our post-secondary goals, these are our goals that occur after high school and must be updated annually. Again, all students have the goal area of education, training, and employment, and not all have independent living. That is per if it's appropriate for that student.
So post-secondary employment options, these are exactly options and should be investigated as all students can seek work. Work is defined broadly. It can be paid or unpaid, part-time or full-time. It could even be volunteer. It could be independent, partially supported. It could be fully supported. Also, you need to think about the benefits of work. Somebody with complex needs may not benefit from the income they earned because they don't understand the need for money, but there is a benefit from work. It could be community inclusion. It could strictly be social. And it could just be to continue to work on those work and skill building tasks, to continue to evolve in their job or in their employment. These skills can be related to the job tasks themselves or to one of the other skills that are required to work and access the community. So sometimes we don't see the benefit of a small job, but they are teaching our individuals to work as part of a team, to understand taking direction, to maybe understanding their sensory needs and how to accommodate. Some individuals can't stand loud noises. They can't stand the bright lights. They don't understand to take direction from another person or understand how to engage in communication appropriately. So sometimes these options are a place to start to continue to work on those skills still needed throughout the lifetime. There are also many different types of employment possibilities. On the next slide, Sharon. And a lot of times we don't think about all these different choices. We just automatically go to the integrative competitive employment, which don't oftentimes apply to our more complex learners. So we can focus on created jobs. Created jobs are customized for people with disabilities and can be created through a non-competitive hiring process. We can also look at customized jobs or customized employment. And this is normally like a relationship between an employer and an employee that can help a person with a disability or special healthcare need find success. So they reassign tasks or modify a job description so the individual is able to fulfill that need at the business, maybe just in a different manner or with support. Resource ownership is a technique that matches a consumer with a job based on skills, interests, and needs. So the consumer purchases the equipment or materials needed to perform the job and then operates the equipment for the employer. This just creates a unique employment opportunity. A lot of times we see a business within a business. It's offering a new service, a new product, a new idea, and it's developed within a company to help that company grow, but added the benefit of the make more customized job or specific, I can't think of the word. I'm like totally drawing a blank. specific item to sell. So I'm going to use an example, like as a bakery or a bookstore that wants to maybe add a coffee bar. So they don't want to run the coffee bar, but it would be an added benefit to that bakery or bookstore to get customers to stay longer. Maybe a dog daycare or a boarding at a kennel or a vet's office, they're going to add that grooming service or homemade specialty treats that maybe an individual with a special healthcare need or disability provides within that business.
So the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act defines competitive integrative employment as work performed on a full-time or part-time basis in which an individual is compensated at or above minimum wage and comparable to the rate paid to employees without disabilities performing similar duties and with similar training and experience. They're receiving the same level of benefits provided to other employees without disabilities in similar positions. It's at a location where an employee interacts with other individuals without disabilities, and it's presented opportunities for advancement similar to other employees without disabilities in similar positions. So our vocational rehabilitation, our VR services, these are the types of employment that they support.
So customized employment typically involves conducting a task analysis of a job by breaking it down into a series of smaller steps. It allows the employer or vocational specialist to identify which parts of a job might be completed with an individual with a disability. Usually these tasks are chosen because they're repetitive, easy to learn, or performed with minimal oversight, and are often designed specifically for one of the individual's abilities. So I'm just going to give you a brief example. I used to be a manager at Schlotsky's, and we hired an individual with some unique needs. And I worked with their vocational specialist to customize a job for him to become a dishwasher and dining room attendant. We just took that job and created smaller steps. We created that job because it was repetitive, the same washing the dishes in the same manner, filling the sink in the same manner, putting the dishes away in the same opportunity. He had heavy supervision in the beginning while he was learning his job tasks, and then was able to move on to minimal supervision that could be provided by the employer or myself.
So I was able to connect with somebody at VR and was given some recent data to show where are our adults working. And so this was an employment type that VR supported through April through June of 2024. So you see they had supported during that time frame 68 individuals working in competitive integrative employment. 4 individuals they were supporting for self-employment, and 41 individuals they were supporting with supported employment in competitive integrated employment. And the specific jobs, we have a chart breakdown for that. This is the top 10 jobs that VR were supporting individuals in those same time frame. So this chart is listed with a title or type of job, and then to the right of that is the wage or the average wage that an individual was earning with that type of job. And then the farthest number on the right is the average number of hours an individual is working in that job type. So for example, somebody that was working as a stalker or order filer averaged about 15 hours a week, earning $12 an hour. So this was their data for the individuals they were supporting in the different job types. I thought this was interesting to kind of break down where are our folks getting jobs that are working with VR. This is specifically VR support. So employment can be starting at the bottom of our employment pyramid here with well, what can they do around the house? What can we work on those pre-work skills? We might be in middle school, we might be in high school. Where are we? Where do we start? Well, we can start there, with the assumption that they will continue to learn. Um, I am at what I'm gonna, oh, he's next. Okay, cool. My own son, we started with household chores around the house, just, things that I might have been doing for him. I try to back away as much as I can to give him as much independence, where having him get his things out of the refrigerator and carry them to the table, even though he might drop them and make a big mess, it's still like, well, I was doing it for him and it is something he can do and learn to do. So let's let him do it. Take his things to the dishes, start washing his stuff. I'm just trying to do as much of me shifting back as possible, starting with the household chores. Then like going up the tier, volunteering with support, doing some supported work in an area of interest. And then at the very top of the tier, we have gainful paid employment. Oops. So in high school, these are some pictures of my son doing some beginning work experience. He's part of something they call Brew Crew. It's like he gets to deliver the coffees to the staff that order it from their coffee shop that's, run there in the school. My son rides a bicycle, so he takes a bicycle. With his communication device, he's able to, work on his communication skills by telling people, hello, here's your coffee, and then have a nice day. He's working on customer service. He's working on following instructions, following a schedule, and he's providing a service. The picture on the far right at the bottom, I put the purple highlight around to see that they've adapted his bike to actually have like a coffee holder. So he is carrying the coffee. This was really thinking outside the box, on, what kinds of things could somebody get involved with just to get started, just to start somewhere, on working on some of these job readiness skills.
So person-centered planning for employment is kind of one of those things we need to start thinking about in our mind shift, thinking that all people are able and capable of work. This encompasses, 5 areas of support and how they can all work together to complete the task of getting our young people to work. So as you saw in those previous pictures, Sharon's son focuses on, technological needs, relationships. It focuses on his strengths, riding his bike. He likes to do that. He likes to engage with people. So we're working on that. And if you have a hard time visualizing this or working through it, the state of Nebraska has adopted the Charting the Life course framework, and that opens up a lot of different tools, which Sharon had shared with you earlier today. So these are straight from it. They're adapted for planning for employment, focusing on different areas of the STAR, such as personal strengths and assets, what they have now and what their hopes are for the future, those relationships, eligibility support, community resources, and technology, what they have now and what they would need to be able to be employed. So for technology now, Emmett uses a communication device. He has that now. Is that his communication device, or is that owned by the school? When he exits the school program, would he need his own? So all those kind of things, kind of still brainstorming for what you have now and what you want for the future. This enables a team to start brainstorming about qualities that the individual has. I'll use my daughter, Noelle. She is very happy. She's very engaging, although she doesn't have verbal communication. Somebody would want to hire her because people are drawn to her. I'm not exactly sure why. It could be her crooked smile, but it brings people to where she's at. This is an integrative support star filled out with some brainstorming things you could start to think about that we may just not think about on a regular basis. So that this would help you guide filling this out for someone you were supporting, whether it was a loved one or somebody in an educational setting.
Yeah, and I just also wanted to add that a lot of these like options, or somebody was kind of coming up with ideas on this sheet, but a lot of these could be used as transition services on an IEP. So not something that's an actual IEP goal, but just like little activities that are happening during the year to support those post-secondary goals. Lots of great ideas on this paper. And again, yes, you were all emailed it, and if you need another copy, send me an email after. Workplace accommodations. So accommodations for being at the workplace must be reasonable and effective. And answer this question when you're thinking about what accommodations can be implemented to enable the employee to perform essential job duties or enjoy equal benefits or privileges. So there's accommodations that can be made, physical accommodations, such as making the workspace accessible, making the furniture adjustable, having accessible restrooms, customized workstations, sensory friendly space, accessible pathway, and having adjustable lighting. You can have assistive technology supports. You can have access to like a screen reader, a voice recognition software, communication aid, like my son will need, adaptive software, visual aid, a big list, communication accommodations. Again, you could request for if you need clear instructions, somebody to check in with you, repeated, or rephrasing of material. Task modification. This would be like task management software that could break tasks down into manageable steps. Redesigning job tasks so you could adjust specific tasks to align with your strengths and abilities as an employee. Providing additional breaks. Flexible work arrangements. This would be like having flexible hours or a very structured routine. Support services. This could look like a job coach offering on-site support. This could be a mentoring program where an employee is paired with mentors for guidance and support. This could be offering mental health resources and assistance programs for counseling services. And then training and awareness. This would be for the educating staff members about inclusivity and encouraging understanding of diverse communication styles and needs, and then if there's any individualized training programs needed. So some employee supports that we're looking at, like as high schoolers, right, or young adults exiting, but we have our IEP and our transition plan right now. We've got that employment goal, that post-secondary employment goal. We can be working on skills related to workplace readiness, employability, communication, self-advocacy, problem solving, conflict resolution skills, safety awareness. All of that could fit under your employment, like a post-secondary goal support. So how are we helping and support this person to learn to be able to be an employee? VR services while in high school, which we're going to talk about another slide. Adult VR services after high school is over. You can find services that are provided in-house by VR and services that are provided by community rehabilitation providers that are agencies that offer supported employment services, such as Goodwill, Ollie Webb, Autism Action Partnership, Prosper Workforce, and there's many more. And then assistive technology, got connecting with ATP. Individual again can have low tech, high tech, mid tech, all kinds of tech to help at the job sites. And I believe we've the waiver supports. So the employment supports through the waiver, this could be more of the job coaching, and that would be something that's offered under waivers, like the developmental disability waiver. And moving on.
So these are some continued employee support. So when we're thinking about individuals that we may traditionally think as not employable, there is a host of benefits, as you had seen, and they continue on with benefits planning. So an individual that's receiving state or federal benefits do not necessarily have to give up those benefits to be able to experience work. Like we said, maybe it's not the financial benefit that they are gaining, but more of that social and inclusivity. So benefits planning can occur through different agencies, through our community. If a professional or a family member needed more information about that, PTI could provide them some direction to other organizations such as Easter Seals, Goodwill, or the League of Human Dignity. Work incentives kind of fall under that Social Security. So Social Security wants to give everybody the opportunity to work. So just because you're collecting that benefit doesn't mean you cannot have a job. And they offer a lot of incentives and programs to get individuals, especially our complex needs population, to be able to get to work. So they have a ticket to work program. They have a pass program. They have income exclusions. So there's really a lot of incentives and possibilities to get an individual to work. Same thing, the federal government has created items such as the ABLE accounts for ones to be able to save. Maybe they want to create their own business or need to buy a specialized computer that isn't covered, by assistive technology. It allows people to save and invest for their future, just like a traditional employee. There's a lot on this slide that you could investigate to see what would best support your individual. Otherwise, you are always able to reach out to PTI Nebraska, and we would be more than happy to brainstorm which one of these organizations would be best fitted.
So we've talked about post-secondary goals for employment. We just threw together a few examples of what these goals could look like in an IEP. So after graduating from high school, Iris will volunteer part-time at her church and continue to develop pre-work skills as she completes a work experience at her church, folding and sorting programs, handouts, daycare activities, and other routine tasks with full adult supports. So that would be written for an individual probably that had, some extensive need. Another goal, after graduating high school, Barb will obtain a part-time job in the food industry with supports from an adult employment provider. The main thing we want about our goals is we want them to be written for after high school, and we want them to be specific about, where, not exactly what exact job, but the type of employment and the support needed. This is just more goals, ideas for maybe somebody that might be considering working and doing some greeting or working in a kitchen or garden.
So these post-secondary goals were kind of written for that traditional mindset of where we typically see our disability population serving in the workforce, but it's also great to think outside of the box and get really creative, especially for the more complex workers. So look for jobs out in the community and think how you can customize them to fit their needs. A lot of our individuals work at a pet daycare or dog walker. I have worked with a young man who bought a vending machine and found a business to put that vending machine in. So he was responsible for, ordering the supplies, helping stock the vending machine, helping collect the monetary, I call them donations, but they're not really donations, the monetary, whatever means from the vending machine. But this could be with full support, but it is also a meaningful job. I worked with an individual out in Western Nebraska, where it's a large farming community. This individual bought their own chickens and tended to those chickens, and then was able to sell their farm fresh eggs. It was actually a local gas station that had a small refrigerator space that individuals could go buy these farm fresh eggs. Gardens, farmers market, self-serve car wash, attendance, working in the libraries, just being able to carry those library books from the drop box or push a library cart for staff. There's just a lot of opportunities that we don't think about, that would be perfect opportunities for our complex individuals. This is my daughter again, Noelle, and her work experience and successes. And as you can see, a lot of the schools start out with like a little coffee cart, and we just continue to develop this and grow it. As she develops and grows. Noelle's first work experience was in middle school. The school staff started a small coffee cart to sell hot coffee and a few pre-bagged snacks to staff. The school staff continued to let Noelle explore work tasks to see what she would enjoy and how she could be a meaningful part of the business. She worked in customer service by greeting and prompting guests for their order and thanking them for their business when the transaction was complete. And she did that by means of a communication switch when she manipulated by hand, or she eventually went on to an eye gaze communication device where she could continue that transaction. Noelle was part of the transportation team, where she learned that she could help push the cart by handle on the side of the cart. And Noelle was also a very successful supervisor. We learned that she likes to keep everybody on task and moving. So she was able to give direction to the staff, her coworkers that maybe needed a little bit more direction. Keep moving. Grab the coffee cart. She said a Reese's peanut butter cup. So she was very successful there. As she transitioned through high school and her transitional years, this coffee cart has continued to grow and evolve with more tasks for Noelle to do, such as grinding fresh coffee beans to be packaged and labeled for retail sale. We saw that in the clip before. We've gone on to include blended drinks such as smoothies, which she can operate a blender via switch. We've gone on to stamping our own bags with the company logo with snacks, and she can operate the stamp. So with this being Noelle's last year in educational transitional services, we're planning to continue to evolve and grow this business into a public coffee cart, maybe similar to those that are in the Omaha area as Joe on the Go, or become a business within a business if we could find the right fit and offer a coffee bar in a local bakery or bookstore. Or we haven't given up on the operating a business within a business, or maybe grinding fresh coffee beans to just drop off and deliver at local businesses that would be willing to sell them for us. So we'll continue to grow that throughout the year and see what our next steps are.
Okay, this is a nice slide that I've also borrowed from an ESU because I like it so much, but it basically helps visualize the transition piece of an IEP where we have those transition assessments on the left that are leading to those post-secondary goals on the right. The middle is the gap. This is the stuff that holds our annual IEP goals and all those transition activities. So what are we doing this year to get us closer to those post-secondary goals that we're not going to be meeting that year, but it might be 4 years, might be 6 years, might be 8 years down the line. So what are we doing in the gap? What are we doing this year? Goals, transition activities to get closer to that. And then just another way to break it down where you could write out like the current skills, what's going to be needed, what's going to be the yearly steps to achieve these. Again, today we're focusing on the employment, but all three of these could be potential post-secondary goal targets. Creating annual goals. What skills do I need to learn this year to work where I want? This year, this is what we should be using to make our annual transition goal, IEP goal for employment. So the important parts about transition goals is they need to be a goal in the IEP. We've talked about this a lot, that supports post-secondary, what needs to be worked on to get there. Use that information, use all the information from those transition assessments to come up with an annual goal that what can we get to this one year? What do we think we can push to this year to get closer? And think about the needs, think about the skills that need to be acquired for that individual to get to that post-secondary goal. As an example of a post-secondary goal for employment and what an annual IEP goal could look like to support this. So if a post-secondary goal was after high school, the student will greet visitors with a smile or use a communication device at a place they choose and are familiar with. So this person might be working as a greeter. The annual goal then, so after meals and bathroom breaks, Dawson will check his appearance in a mirror to clean his face, brush his hair, check his clothes without prompting, from 0% independently to 80% independently. So just teaching him to become presentable, to be able to be a greeter. We don't want somebody being a greeter with food all over their face and their clothes a mess and hair's a mess. So what can we work on right now? Let's work on this, like daily hygiene skills, so that we can get to this post-secondary goals in a few years down the road. And this wouldn't be the goal every year. Hopefully you work on this goal one year, the next goal, is different, and still working to get closer to that. The course of study in the IEP, this is where you can identify specific courses that a student will take, whether it's special ed or general ed, that will directly support progress toward the post-secondary goal and annual goals. It's updated every year, and if the post-secondary goal is changing, the course of study may change. But the course of study should list out all of the remaining courses an individual is going to take before they graduate. So if you are in middle school, then you should be seeing middle school and all your high school classes listed out. Very overwhelming, but we want to try to make sure that we're putting in classes if somebody is wanting to do something in the art field, that they are, or going to be a photographer, that we're putting in art classes and photography classes and business management and, things that are going to help them guide toward their post-secondary goal. So I told you we were talking just a little bit more about VR. So VR is an important agency that is helping young adults in the middle school and high school settings. Beginning at age 14, a school can reach out and bring in a VR staff to help work with an individual. A parent can request the services start as well if the school has not initiated. It's just a simple permission slip, basically a signature, allowing them to get started. But VR will work on these 5 areas: job exploration counseling, work-based learning experiences, counseling about post-secondary programs, workplace readiness, and instruction and self-advocacy. Most students will be working with VR that have disabilities. However, if a student has a visual impairment or a hearing impairment, there are different agencies that offer more specialized training to help those individuals work on their job skills and access those different accommodations that will be needed. So for example, my son with his visual impairment, he works with the Nebraska Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired. So he is not working with VR, but they are working on these same areas. They just present the material in different ways, have to train somebody that is using different strategies, such as, because he's not able to see. But if you are somebody that has a hearing impairment, you would be working with the Nebraska Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. All right, so we're almost to the end of our presentation, and it's basically 3 transition scenarios. A youth is going to exit school with no work experience. A youth is going to exit school with work experience, but no post-school supports in place. And a youth is going to exit school with work experience and seamless linkage to an adult system with educational supports. So which one would you like for your child or your individual? We support the work experiences early and often. Some great resources for more information. They've got the Nebraska Department of Education has a website for transition, has all kinds of material on there for post-secondary, for jobs, for employment, for future planning, for just what should be going on in your high school programming, VR, just tons of stuff. We've got a podcast, we've got a newsletter, Charting the Life course, which Lisa was talking about. Amazing resource, so many of those types of worksheets that you can print out, and it's all free, so you can try to help you do some mapping and planning. And this is our, see Lisa.
I will put in a shout if you would like more information about person-centered planning, or you need help utilizing and navigating Charting the Life course tools. I am a Charting the Life course ambassador for the state of Nebraska. So I've gone through some extra training and just attended some extra workshops that I might be able to help you navigate those tools. We will be hosting at PTI a couple of workshops to start exploring different tools. Feel free as a parent or a professional to attend any of those and learn more. This is our inquiry form. If you feel like you need some individual assistance or more information on a specific topic that we covered today, go ahead and fill that out for us.
Thanks for learning with PTI Nebraska. If you found this training helpful, please hit the like button, leave a comment letting us know what you learned from this presentation, and subscribe for updates on future trainings. For more information and resources, please visit our website at pti-nebraska.org.